Greetings, dear ones. I am Cryon of Magnetic Service.
Saludos, mis queridos. Soy Crión del servicio magnético.
And there would be those who would wonder if this is real.
Y habrá aquellos que se preguntarán si esto es real.
So I give you a moment.
Así que les doy un momento.
If you can touch your higher self right now in any way at all,
Si puedes tocar tu yo superior en este momento de cualquier manera,
if you can ask the innate in the body,
si puedes preguntarle a tu sabiduría interna innata en tu cuerpo,
they'll tell you it's real.
te dirán que es real.
Use that discernment that you have.
Ese discernimiento que tienes
It's a safe place to be.
es un lugar seguro para estar.
Indeed, a real communication from the other side of the veil is at hand.
De hecho, una comunicación real desde el otro lado del velo la tenemos aquí.
And it always starts the same,
Y siempre comienza de la misma manera,
with appreciation and love
con aprecio y amor,
and honor for that which is the human being.
y honrar aquello que es el ser humano.
You tend to separate yourselves from us.
Tiendes a separarte de nosotros.
You tend to think of humans and then there are the rest on the other side of the veil.
Tiendes a pensar que están los humanos y todo el resto al otro lado del velo.
There is the angelic realm and then there's the human realm.
Está el reino angelical y está por otro lado el reino humano.
And you don't understand
Y no entiendes
that you are us,
que tú eres nosotros,
except that you are humans at the moment.
excepto que tú eres humano en este momento.
There is a circle.
Hay un círculo
Of lives on the planet Earth,
un círculo de vidas en el planeta Tierra,
according to a divine system that you helped create.
de acuerdo a un sistema divino que tú ayudaste a crear.
There are those who would tell you this is a prison.
Hay aquellos que te dirán que esto es una prisión.
This is where you come to suffer because you haven't done something right.
Aquí es donde vienes a sufrir porque hay algo que no hiciste, que hiciste que no era correcto.
There are those who would humanize God.
Hay quienes van a humanizar a Dios
They'll tell you there's wars in heaven and trouble,
y que dirán que hay guerras en el cielo y problemas,
fallen angels and evil,
ángeles que se caen y demonios,
all to justify the things they are creating themselves.
todo para justificar aquello que ellos están creando ellos mismos.
The truth is that the magnificence of God is upon you.
Y la verdad es que la magnificencia de Dios está sobre ti
It always has been.
y siempre ha estado allí
It always will be.
y siempre estará allí.
And to the extent that you discover it
Y en cuanto logras entenderla, descubrirla,
is the lesson of mankind.
es esa la lección de la humanidad.
The process you see here
El proceso que ves aquí
is always the process.
siempre es el proceso.
And that is to say that human beings have always represented spirit.
Y eso es para decir que el ser humano siempre ha representado al espíritu.
All the scriptures written by humans,
Todas las escrituras han sido escritas por humanos.
all the messages from God related through humans.
Todos los mensajes de Dios entregados por humanos.
It's always been the way it is.
Siempre ha sido la manera en que es.
And today it is channeling,
Y hoy es canalización.
and there are still those who will not accept it,
Y todavía habrá aquellos que no lo aceptarán,
for they do not feel they are worthy or qualified to
Pues-
listen.
pues no sentirán que son merecedores o calificados para escuchar,
Or that any human is qualified to receive.
o que ningún humano esté realmente calificado para recibir.
And this is an old energy paradigm which you are starting to conquer.
Y este es un paradigma de vieja energía que estás empezando a conquistar.
The message is given on a ship
El mensaje es entregado en un barco.
are always different
Los mensajes en barco son siempre distintos
than those given on the land.
que aquellos que se entregan en tierra,
For you're not connected, you're not grounded.
pues no estás conectado, no estás aterrizado.
The water separates you
El agua te separa
from the dirt of the earth.
de la tierra del planeta.
It is different.
Es distinto.
So many epiphanies happen on the water.
Tantas epifanías ocurren sobre el agua.
Sometimes artists go to paint on a boat.
Algunas veces los artistas van a pintar en los barcos.
Poets to write.
Los poetas van a escribir,
For they feel it and they know it.
pues lo sienten y lo saben.
These days you have an opportunity, if you choose,
Estos días tienes una oportunidad, si así lo eliges,
to have profound communications.
para tener comunicaciones profundas.
It always happens
Siempre sucede
if you are open to it.
si estás abierto a ello.
Watch your dreams.
Observa tus
What
sueños.
do they say? What do they mean?
¿Qué te dicen? ¿Qué significan?
It's a great time to communicate with your own cellular structure,
Es un gran momento para comunicarte con tu propia estructura celular,
for you're just a little off center,
pues estás un poco salido del centro,
because that which is normally stable under your feet is moving.
pues aquello que está normalmente estable bajo tus pies se está moviendo.
It puts you in another kind of reality,
Te ubicas sobre otro tipo de realidad
and it's an opportunity.
y es una oportunidad.
And so in this we create an energy
Entonces, en esto creamos una energía
for you,
para ti.
that all through this time,
Y durante todo este tiempo,
at the least expected moments,
en los momentos menos esperados,
you might have introspection
puede que tengas introspección
about yourself, about others around you,
sobre ti y sobre aquellos a tu alrededor,
about the purity and the grandness of love,
acerca de la pureza y la grandiosidad del amor,
of life's purpose.
del propósito de la vida.
As my partner says, a time to relax and be,
Como dice mi socio, un momento para relajarse y ser,
to feel part of the creative energy,
de sentirse parte de la energía creativa,
to breathe a sigh of relief for a moment. Just to breathe a sigh of relief.
para respirar y dejar relajar.
That such a space you have created for yourself.
En este espacio que has creado para ti.
You're heading south
Te diriges hacia el sur,
toward the pole.
hacia el polo.
Now you're not going to the pole,
Ahora no vas al polo,
but some of you will be as close as you ever have been.
pero algunos de ustedes estarán tan cerca o lo más cerca que habrán estado.
There are things happening in Antarctica
Hay cosas que están pasando en Antártida,
that we have spoken of before.
de las cuales hemos hablado antes.
Something you should celebrate when you're close.
Algo que debieran celebrar cuando estén cerca.
Dear ones, there is so much significance to where you're going.
Queridos míos, hay tanto significado en cuanto a dónde se dirigen.
It is not an accident that this is the trip you have decided to take,
No es un accidente que este sea el viaje que has elegido tomar,
or the one that my partner has seen as something he wished to do.
o que mi socio haya visto este viaje como algo que deseaba hacer.
And some of you will see this before you're done.
Y algunos de ustedes verán esto antes de que termine.
So here's what we are asking.
Así que aquí está lo que les pedimos.
There is a shift happening on the planet.
Hay un cambio ocurriendo en el planeta.
It evolves slowly.
Evoluciona lentamente.
Old souls are the ones that are feeling it first.
Almas antiguas son las que lo sienten primero.
They are the ones who are here in the room.
Esas son las que están aquí en esta sala.
You know that magnetics plays a part in cellular structure awareness?
Sabes que lo magnético juega un rol en cuanto a la conciencia de la estructura celular.
And you're heading for what we have called a null zone.
Y te estás dirigiendo a una zona que hemos llamado zona nula.
The closest some of you will ever get to having no polarity.
Lo más cerca que muchos de ustedes se acercarán a no tener polaridad.
Now this is not understood by some of you.
Ahora, esto no es comprendido por algunos de ustedes,
So let us simplify it.
así que simplifiquémoslo.
You have decided to put yourself into a place that is unusually anomalous magnetically on the planet.
Ustedes han decidido ubicarse en un lugar que es de manera inusual, anormal en términos magnéticos.
Compasses don't work well down here.
Las brújulas no funcionan bien aquí.
And so for a little while it'll posture that which is your consciousness potential.
Así que por un momento va a mostrar lo que es tu potencial de conciencia,
For old souls especially,
especialmente para las almas viejas,
to receive messages.
para recibir mensajes.
There are certain mammals here
Hay mamíferos aquí,
in the ocean
en los océanos,
who are entangled with your Akash.
que están entangled o entrelazados con tu Akash.
They don't have to be close to you for you to feel them and know they are here.
No necesitan estar cerca de ti para que tú los sientas y sepas que ellos están allí.
And some of you will know
Y
when I
algunos de
speak.
ustedes sabrán de lo que hablo.
Oh, these are such wonderful opportunities.
Oh, estas son oportunidades tan maravillosas.
And it won't necessarily happen in a meeting like this.
Y no necesariamente sucederá en una reunión como esta.
I want you to relax.
Quiero que te relajes.
And the things that you would see on the excursions,
Y las cosas que verás en las excursiones,
see them as part of the creator energy that you are.
velas como parte de la energía creadora que tú eres.
Have an alliance with the mountains themselves.
Crea una alianza con las montañas mismas.
I may even tell you some interesting things about Antarctica when you're closer.
Puede que te digan cosas interesantes sobre Antártida cuando estemos más cerca.
When I come back in a moment,
Cuando regrese en un momento,
I'm going to talk about the universe
voy a hablar sobre el
and
universo
what the shift is changing
y el cambio que está cambiando,
that some of you would not expect.
que no esperarían algunos de ustedes.
And I hope you're impressed
Y espero que te impresiones
with the grandness of the shift for the human race.
con la grandiosidad del cambio para la raza humana.
And so it is.
Y así es.
En este momento el precio de Bitcoin es muy económico. At the moment the price of Bitcoin is very cheap. Pero casi todo el mundo tiene muy poco dinero para invertir. But almost everybody has very little money to invest. Debería decir que esta idea me vino hoy especialmente cuando vi otra vez una chica ahí pidiendo dinero por la calle. Actually, I must say first, this idea today I got especially when I saw again one girl begging for money in the streets. Me gustaría ayudar, pero yo tampoco me sobra mucho el dinero. I would really like to help everybody, but I don't have either too much money. And así que me vino la siguiente idea. So I got the following idea. Es más bien un juego. It's rather a game. Lo que es muy importante, elegir un monedero de Bitcoin que solo tú misma tienes la llave privada. What is very important to choose Bitcoin wallet company which you only possess the private key. For example, blockchain.info. Por ejemplo, la empresa blockchain.info. Luego imprimir en papel la llave privada y también guardarlo tú mismo. Then to print in paper the private key and of course save for yourself that private key. Bueno, ya estamos imprimiendo, imprime por lo menos 10. So now we are already printing, so at least print 10 directions, 10 direcciones. Luego pones algo de Bitcoin, una cantidad, lo que te da la gana en esta dirección. Then you put some Bitcoin, the amount, whatever you want, and that in these directions. Y la próxima vez que sales de casa ya tienes algo que dar a los que están ahí pidiendo por la calle. And the next time you go out of the house, you have already something to give for these people who are begging on the streets. Y por ejemplo, y claro, para tus amigos, amigas, and for your friends, of course, eso da motivación a la gente para aprender Bitcoin, y this gives motivation for the people to learn about Bitcoin. Y la parte del juego consiste en lo siguiente, and the game part consists in the following. Explicas a la gente, mira, esta es la clave privada, que es la clave secreta. You explain to the people, look, this is the private key, which must be secret. And you have it, and me, and explicas, esa persona y yo mismo la tiene. Y antes pensaba en 5 años, pero luego cambié un poco de idea de hasta 4 años. First I thought of 5 years, but then I changed my opinion to 4 years, later explain. Después lo explico por qué. Les dices, mira, tienes 4 años para poner esta cantidad de Bitcoin a otra dirección. Si no lo has quitado después de 4 años, yo lo quito. So you explain them, you have 4 years to take this Bitcoin out of this direction, of this secret key direction. If you don't do it, I do it after these 4 years, so you lose this. That's this part of the game, es la parte del juego. He creado este hashtag BTC4 para hacerlo un poco popular. I created this hashtag BTC4 to make it a little popular. Antes pensaba en 5 años, pero luego cambié a 4 porque te has dado cuenta que en Los Simpson la gente tiene 4 dedos y solo Dios tiene 5 dedos. First, I thought of 5 years, but then I changed my mind to 4 years. Did you notice that in The Simpsons, people have 4 fingers and only God has 5 fingers? I'll show some pictures. Voy a enseñar algunas imágenes de Los Simpsons, de los manos y dedos de Simpsons. Some pictures of the hands and fingers of Simpsons. Pero antes quiero recordar que es muy probable que en también 4 o 5 en los próximos años el valor de Bitcoin puede subir mucho. Just want to remember before that the price of Bitcoin, the value of Bitcoin can rise very much in these next years. Así que si solo pones una cantidad pequeña, más tarde puede ser de gran ayuda. Even if you just put a little small amount, later it can be big help. No solo para, bueno, es un juego. Si la persona lo quita antes de 4 años, es para esta persona, si no, es para ti, si te recuerdas y guardas bien la llave privada. So this is the game part. If the person takes the money out, it's for that person. But if they forget it after these 4 years, you can take it out. And it can be really...
Bueno, imprimir también la llave pública y la llave privada. Y si, por ejemplo, okay, first translate. Print not just the private key, but also the public key. Así que si, por ejemplo, explicas a la gente, mira, si alguna persona quiere enviarte Bitcoin, pero tú no tienes ninguna dirección, así que puedes dar esta llave pública a la persona. Mira, muy bien, la llave pública, no la llave secreta, das a esa persona o cualquier persona y te pueden enviar Bitcoin a esa dirección. So remember, the public key you can give to anybody, and if somebody wants to send you some Bitcoin and this person doesn't have any, so you have already this public address where they can send you Bitcoin.
¿Qué es Bitcoin? Bitcoin es la primera moneda digital descentralizada. Los Bitcoins son monedas digitales que puedes enviar a través de Internet. Comparado con otras alternativas, Bitcoin tiene numerosas ventajas. Los Bitcoins son transferidos directamente de persona a persona a través de la red sin pasar por un banco u otro intermediario. Esto significa que las comisiones son mucho menores, puedes usarlo en cualquier país, tu cuenta no puede ser congelada y no hay prerequisitos o límites arbitrarios. Miremos cómo funciona. Los Bitcoins son generados en todo Internet por cualquiera con un programa gratuito llamado minero de Bitcoin. Crear Bitcoins requiere una cierta cantidad de trabajo para cada bloque de monedas. Esta cantidad se ajusta automáticamente por la red para que los Bitcoins siempre sean creados a un ratio predecible y limitado. Tus Bitcoins se guardan en tu billetera digital, que te resultará familiar si usas banca digital. Cuando transfieres Bitcoins, una firma electrónica es añadida. Pasados unos minutos, la transacción es verificada por el minero y es almacenada permanente y anónimamente por la red. El software de Bitcoin es completamente abierto y cualquiera puede revisar el código. Bitcoin está cambiando las finanzas de la misma manera que la web ha cambiado el periodismo. Cuando cualquiera tiene acceso al mercado global, florecen grandes ideas. Miremos algunos ejemplos de cómo los Bitcoins están usándose hoy en día. Puedes comprar videojuegos, regalos, libros, servidores y calcetines de alpaca. Existen varias casas de cambio donde puedes intercambiar tus Bitcoins por dólares, euros y más. Los Bitcoins son una gran forma para que pequeños negocios y autónomos reciban publicidad. No cuesta nada empezar a aceptarlos, no hay cargos o comisiones y recibirás negocio adicional de la economía Bitcoin. Para tus primeros Bitcoins y más información, visita weusecoins.com.
Bueno, ahora voy a enseñar algunas imágenes de los dedos de Simpsons. Now I'll show some pictures of the fingers of Simpson. The 4 fingers, los 4 dedos y 5 dedos de Dios. 4 fingers and 5 fingers of God of Simpsons.
13th of March.
Right now, there are more people on the internet than there were on the planet in 1960.
We're raising money.
And it's easier to be discovered than ever before.
It takes a full team to make each one of our videos.
But the internet needs better software to help us reward one another for our work.
Advertisers value you differently. They say that 1,000 of you is only worth $6.
Any help is very much appreciated. Please fund this project. We need your help.
Son, isn't that enough?
Bueno, hoy me vino una idea. Today I got an idea. What you can do to lo que tú también tú puedes hacer. Bueno, que en realidad todo el mundo puede hacer si quiere. Actually, what everybody can do if you want.
Inherently and historically opposed to secret society, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweigh the dangers which are cited to justify it.
Face the facts, join our hands, make a stand. It's time to gather plans, get the shot, take the chance. Till there is no one left, stay correct to the death. They can't ever break a freedom, we will never let it. The corrupt politics is killing the system. Cynicism is it, and it's everything that you witness. They tell you what to think, make you believe that they're the realness. They feed us full of lies, and yet we always forgive them. Huh? It's all conspiracy, and if you're feeding into it, you're the puppet. The government's pulling strings from above you. It's time for the introduction to truth, and let's start a movement. We've all been brainwashed, they believe that we all are stupid. We believe in what we see and whatever our ears are hearing. But if you look close, listen, gather your own opinion, you'll understand all the lies, lines and what's between them. This word is not your oyster, this word is a fucking prison. Come on! What's happening in our nation? No one will stand up for the fear of assassination. So they strip us of everything. We stand there and just take it. We're scared to make a stand of false flag operations. Research Illuminati, find out by 9/11. You see they line their pockets, don't believe the lies they tell you. should do whatever it is we can to protect our livelihood. It's time for us to prove whether conspiracy or not. They owe some explanations to the questions that we got. What are the skull and bones? What is lying beneath all these secretive meats? Got you lying between your teeth. What's with the Bilderberg and burning your effigies? I'm praying to Lucifer. How Satanist can you be? While all of the time praying you believing in the peace just to keep up appearances within Christianity. Come on. Stay strong when they try to shut us down or turn around, let us storm them. We got the warnings, let us march from the morning through the night. We gon' fight and close the eye and overthrow all these damn secret societies. Why we gotta stand for the new world proprieties? The evidence is clear, we're naive to the lies. Illuminati wolves killing sheep in the night. When will we learn? When will we see what is right underneath all our eyes? This whole time realize we've been deceived and they're trying to deplete us. They brainwashed our minds, may our souls stay free from corruption. Never trust them, let them get ahead. Even if we chant a march to the very end. Nevertheless, let them know we will never rest. Till I bid in my beat to them knots to the head. Come on! You'll never take control. Your new world order will lead to none at all.
Open your mind.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Right?
Okay.
A totalitarian government with a scientific bent might do things that to us would seem horrifying. The Nazis were more scientific than the present rulers of Russia and were more inclined to the atrocities that I have in mind. If they had survived, they would probably have soon taken to scientific breeding. Any nation which adopts this practice will, within a generation, secure great military advantages. The system, one may surmise, will be something like this, except possibly in the governing aristocracy. All but 5% of males and 30% of females will be sterilized.
Open your mind.
The 30% of females will be expected to spend the years from 18 to 40 in reproduction in order to secure adequate cannon fodder. As a rule, artificial insemination will be preferred to the natural method. The unsterilized, if they desire the pleasures of love, will usually have to seek them with sterilized partners.
Open your mind.
The Bible says in 2 Thessalonians chapter number 2 and verse number 10, that is, with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth. The Lord Jesus Christ is truth personified. He said, I am the way, the truth. Not the truth about the truth. The truth about the truth is fine, but He is the truth. In other words, to receive Him is to receive the truth. To reject Him is to reject the truth. Because they received not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. Now watch carefully. And this is one of these things in the Bible that just literally, you have to kind of look at it and think hard. For this cause, God shall send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie, that they all might be damned, who believe not the truth, but had pleasure in righteousness. All right. So what does that mean? Well, that means that a great deception. The Bible says that in the last days, men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy. And the scripture says that they will be deceiving, they will deceive and be deceived. That's what's going on. A deception on a grand scale. I read something last night as I've been digging. I've been doing a lot of digging. One thing leads to another. Have you ever noticed how when you get on the trail, one thing leads to another? And when I started reading this, it's one of these things in your life, when you read it, you'll never forget it. All right, I'll never forget this. I'll never forget it because of the implications involved in it. First of all, it's the testimony of an honorable man. Admiral, he's an admiral. He's gone on now, but Admiral Byrd, Richard Byrd. Here's the man who flew over the North Pole and was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor. And I read the statement attached to that, how that he risked his life and so forth. He flew over the South Pole. That's not all he did, though. After the war, he led expedition to South America with over 4,000 troops and 8, 9, 10, 12 warships. And it was called Operation High Jump. Never heard of it. But when you find out about one thing, it leads to another thing.
Open your mind.
But let's get into it quickly because you're wondering what's going on. The man's an aviator. He's a pilot. And he leaves at 0600 hours. That's 6 o'clock in the morning for folks that, you know, if you're not familiar with the 24-hour clock. 0600 is 6 o'clock in the morning. He flies out and he headed north. He gives updates as to his flight, to turbulence that he gets in the air. He drops his altitude, raises his altitude, standard procedures of any pilot. And he does this, and he talks about how he does it, and continues to fly. He has constant radio checks with his base, so they'll know where he is. They can keep up with him. And back in those days, they didn't have GPS and all of that stuff, so they flew by what's called dead reckoning a lot of times. And pilots know exactly what I'm talking about when I'm talking about dead reckoning. He continues to talk to them until he gets down, until he comes. He's flying over the ice. He's flying over the North Pole. And what do you expect to see? Nothing but ice. That's what you expect to see. One sheet of ice after another sheet, just solid white ice, snow, the North Pole. Until he sees a creature down below, which looks to him like a mammoth, and he drops his altitude to about 1,400 feet, and it is a mammoth.
Open your mind.
And this begins to really get his attention. He sees a mountain range, and at 10 o'clock in the morning, so now he's been in the air for 4 hours, he says he crosses over the small mountain range, and still proceeding northward as best can be ascertained, beyond the mountain range is what appears to be a valley with a small river or stream running through the center portion. There should be no green valley below, no green valley in the Arctic, no green valley. And something is definitely wrong and abnormal here, he says. We should be over ice and snow. To the port side, port is left, starboard is right. To the port side are great forests growing on the mountain slopes.
Open your mind.
Our navigation instruments are still spinning, and the reason they're spinning is because he's approaching magnetic north. And the magnetic pole, if you ever get around the magnetic pole, you forget your magnetic compass. It's not going to work because the magnetism is so intense, and the movement is so great that it's no use to you. But in any event, he says his navigational instruments are spinning. The gyroscope is oscillating back and forth. Then he sees this beneath, and he says, at 1,400 feet, I execute a sharp left turn to better examine the valley below. It is green with either moss or some type of tight-knit grass. The light here seems different. I cannot see the sun anymore. We make another left turn, and we spot what seems to be a large animal of some kind below. It appears to be an elephant. No, it looks more like a mammoth. This is incredible, he says, yet there it is. He decreases his altitude to 1,000 feet and he takes binoculars to better examine the animal. It is confirmed it is definitely a mammoth-like animal. Report this to base camp.
Open your mind.
At 10:30 hours, he encountered more rolling green hills. The external temperature indicator reads 74 degrees Fahrenheit. the North Pole. Continuing on our heading now, navigation instruments seem normal now. I'm puzzled over their actions. Attempt to contact base camp, radio is not functioning. And now what follows is one of the most incredible things I've ever read in my life. And let me put it in the context of this. When Satan showed the Lord Jesus Christ the kingdoms of the world in a moment of time, he did just that. He has power. And there are things going on that there is absolutely no physical definition or logical reasoning to, but the existence of it cannot be denied. And this is what's happening here. In 11:30 hours, countryside below is more level than normal. If I may use that word, ahead we spot what seems to be a city. This is impossible. Aircraft seems light and oddly buoyant. The controls refuse to respond. My God, he says, off our port and starboard wings, a strange type of aircraft. They're closing rapidly alongside. They're disc-shaped and have a radiant quality to them. They are close enough now to see the markings on them. It is a type of swastika. This is fantastic. Where are we? What has happened? I tug at the controls again. They will not respond. We're caught in an invisible vice grip of some type. 11:35 hours, our radio crackles and a voice comes through in what appears to, in English with what appears to be a slight Nordic or Germanic accent. The message is, "Welcome, Admiral, to our domain. We shall land you in exactly 7 minutes. Relax, Admiral. You are in good hands. I note the engines of our plane have stopped running. The aircraft is under some strange control and is now turning itself. The controls are useless." In plain words, he's been taken over completely. Now, up to this point, you're going to say to yourself, well, this is a madman. Or you may say to yourself, I know the power of the devil. I know how he can deceive. And what follows, he is taken into a city by blonde-haired men who look like these Aryans that Hitler and the rest of them are talking about in Germany. And then he's finally taken to their leader. And when he's taken to their leader, he has a conversation with him. He's their master. And that master tells him that essentially that they've been observing us on top of the earth where we live for a long time, and that we have gotten to the point by killing each other, and they're talking about the atomic bomb that had just been recently dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. You know those two. This happened in 1947, I think this happened. These bombs had just recently been dropped. They were dropped April, wasn't it? April the 3rd, 9th, 1945, somewhere in April. These bombs had just been dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and they were saying that we are going to have to do something with the people who dwell on earth because you have gotten out of hand. All right. They tell Admiral Byrd that he's an honorable man, and he asks him, why am I here? They said, because you're chosen to be here. You're a man that we can trust. We're going to tell you what's happening. We're going to tell you all of this. They tell him. They send him back. All right, he goes back apparently and reports this to the United States government because remember, he is a military officer accountable to his chain of command. So he goes back and he tells his superiors. And apparently they tell him to hush this up. This stays hushed until right before he dies, this diary comes out. Because he says, I cannot leave this world without letting humanity know what has happened. I cannot leave. I must tell them what happened. Now, before we go any further, let's ask ourselves some questions. Number one, did he write this diary? Is this Admiral Byrd's diary? Did he really write this? Number two, if he really did write this, and this is legitimate, this is his diary, then something obviously happened to this man when he was over the North Pole. Something happened. Something obviously happened to this man. Number three, regardless of whatever happened to this man, he's convinced something happened to him, so it's incumbent upon us, what did happen to him when he was over the North Pole? All right? If you press this thing a little further and do a little more studying into it, you'll find out that there's an awful lot of people out there that believe the earth is hollow, that there's not a molten mass in it like they say. Now, if you're a Bible believer, you know this. You know that the heart of this earth, hell, is located. If you believe the Bible, all right? If you believe the Bible. And if you believe the Bible, the book of Revelation makes it very plain that the bottomless pit, which is hell, was opened, and out of that pit came these creatures upon the earth. They're coming out on the earth. They're coming out on the face of the earth. Now, that's a wild thing.
Open your mind.
This is why a lot of churches in this country an awful lot of churches in this country absolutely refuse to read or study the book of Revelation or preach from it because it has some things in it that just literally blow your mind, and that's one of them. Talking about creatures coming up out of the bottomless pit, Apollyon and Abaddon and all of that. But if I'm a Bible believer, I believe it's real. All right. You can get off and you can get way out in left field with a hollow earth theory. All right, and you can get in deep into all of this stuff that I'm just going to present it to you this morning in the context of what we're studying, because we're studying a deceit that's coming on this earth of unbelievable proportions. A deceit, all right, a deceit. Now, we know that Adolf Hitler, when he was Chancellor of Germany, was deep into the occult. We know they didn't do anything unless they consulted their occult masters and prognosticators and what have you. And that the German high command, Himmler and men like that, even Himmler himself was far more into the occult than Hitler, and Hitler was head over heels into it, but Himmler was deep into it.
Open your mind.
These men were guided every moment of their life by an occult satanic power and spirit. Germany did definitely develop during World War II some of the highest technology on the earth. I saw this the other day on the History Channel, and I didn't know this. Nobody had ever told me this. But this is what the History Channel reported, that 2 German scientists in the 30s, these 2 German scientists had split the atom. Now think hard on that.
Open your mind.
Think hard on that. And it was the German scientists, Werner von Braun, men like that, who got America into space. That's a fact, folks. That's a fact, no question about that. The only reason they didn't put them to death at Nuremberg with the trials was because they needed them. And so they needed their technology, what have you. Germany apparently was way ahead of the rest of the world in some of this technology. Germany had a society called the Vril Society, V-R-I-L. How many's ever heard that term? Most people haven't, but a few of you have, all right? That's an occult society. But the premise of the Vril Society was this: they were able to tap into satanic power and apply it to physical things. See? They were able to tap into to occult power. They called it whatever force they called it. We know what it is. The power is either of God or the devil. But they tapped into it, and they were able to apply it to physical things. There are photographs of flying saucers the Germans made. I've seen them, but they're not flying saucers like the classic example of them, but they are flying saucers. In other words, they are propelled by a propulsion system that was unknown by most of the world at that time. But in any event, the bottom line is that the Germans had tapped into the occult world and had begun to build this system based on what they were getting from the occult world. And that system was this. They believed that in the north, they believed in the north,
open your mind,
that there was an entrance into a hollow earth, and that spirit beings lived there that were vastly superior to us. And that these spirit beings were our forefathers, and that's what Hitler was trying to do, was to try to bring the race back, the Aryan race, back to its roots, back to what it should be. And this is why the root race theory is so important when you get into this stuff. You remember I told you about the root race? You remember which one I told you the Aryan was?
Open your mind.
There's 7 of them. 5, exactly. 5. It's number 5. It's the 5th. And this root race theory, the Theosophists taught it, Blavatsky in Russia taught it. All of this evolutionary, spiritual evolutionary that brings this super race, this super identity. These people believe that. The evolution, when you talk about biological evolution, all right, you're talking about what they teach at UT and all the major colleges in the world. They teach biological evolution. What is biological evolution? That's what Charles Darwin taught, right? All right, that's simple enough on the surface of it for people to relate to. Biological evolution. I don't believe it, but that's what they teach. All right. Then there is social evolution. All right? Political correctness is a product of social evolution. What's social? Well, if biological evolution is true, then social evolution is where the masses and humanity and governments are able to learn how to live in peace and blah blah and so forth. In plain words, social evolution means that there must be a one world government for men to live. That's social evolution. See, that's not biological evolution. But the idea is that if evolution is true, they believe it is, then therefore that justifies the idea, well, men must live together. Then there is this esoteric, this spiritual, this stuff here we're talking about that Admiral Byrd saw. There is that type of evolution, and this gets into the mystical category of it, because this gets into that highbrow stuff about the spirit beings that are channelers and guides and are communicating with people. And the U.S. government would never tell you this, but they've had all kinds of experiments into this, and they've got labs, and they've got underground labs, and they're doing experimentation into this stuff, and all of this is going on right now, and people go off on the deep end when they get into it, and you got to be awful careful with it, because you can get into this stuff and you can become possessed by these spirits, because these are demons.
Open your mind.
And these demons are smart. Admiral Byrd saw something. I don't doubt that for a minute. But he did not see a civilization of advanced beings that had evolved to that point. What he saw was either an apparition or a physical manifestation of some spirit power that's demonic. That's what he saw. But it blows my mind to begin to realize how powerful it is.
Open your mind.
What I'm going to say to you this morning, I want to say it to you, and I want you to take it to heart. When the deception comes, if you're not a born-again believer, you'll be swept away with it. The deception will be greater than you ever imagined in your life. It is going to be profound as to what happens. When Ted Gunderson talked about, now put it together, he talked about people in the high places are Satanists. What he's talking about, they're Illuminati. He's talking about spiritual power in high places that will bring about a one-world government. And by doing that, they intend to rule the world. And they have the help of a whole, I don't know, what do you call it, a mass of demonic spirits who are able to perform all kinds of miracles, deceptive miracles, manifestations, and all of this stuff to help them to bring about that one world government. And the goal is so that they can put one man up and worship him as God, the Antichrist. Now, there is a mind behind all of it. There's a mind directing it, and that mind is the devil, Lucifer. He wants worship. He wants worship. He covets worship.
Open your mind.
He does. And money's nothing to him. And the souls of men, and power's nothing to him. He's got power. He covets worship. That's why he said to the Lord Jesus Christ, you fall down and worship me, and I'll give you the kingdoms of the world. He covets it. Now, I read something yesterday. You might find it hard to believe. And when I first read it, I thought, this gets into high tech of high tech. How many of you have ever heard about all of the scientists that are dying? The scientists that have died. These are scientists that are working on classified stuff like electrical experiments, high-tech electricity, like microbiologists. Like these are the men who are working for the government who can support it, or from colleges who have government grants, working in the highest echelons. These scientists, a lot of them are dying for unexplained reasons. They just die. They come up dead. They're working on some highly secret thing and they come up dead. And you think to yourself, well, what's that got to do with the New World Order? Well, when you find out what they're working on, it's got a lot to do with it. I'm going to take one case this morning. I'm not talking about demons, and I'm not talking about apparitions, and I'm not talking about manifestations. I'm talking about rock hard science, okay? Microbiologists. Who are these people? These are the guys who sequence DNA. All right? Deoxyribonucleic acid, that DNA, which is the code structure of your body. They sequence it. What are they doing that for? They're trying to find out, and I'm going to read it for you. This is an amazing thing. The headline says this: microbiologist with link to race-based weapon turning up dead. What's that? Let's look closely. 2 American scientists were Benito K., 52, Don Wiley, 57. Both microbiologists had been engaged in DNA sequencing that could provide a genetic marker based on genetic profiling. The research, now watch carefully, the research could play an important role in developing weaponized pathogens to hit selected groups of humans, identifying them by race. You ever thought of such a thing as that?
Open your mind.
2 years ago, both men were found dead in circumstances never fully explained. You remember how I told you that the elite are racist? You remember what I told you about that? So why would they be, preacher? It's root race theory. The 7 successive upward evolutionary progression. The root race theory. Adolf Hitler was one of the most racist men that walked the face of the earth. He made it plain to everybody that blonde-haired, blue-eyed, Nordic-featured, like this killer up here in Norway, that just shot to death all those people, was the Aryan epitome of what a human being should be, and all the rest of the scum underneath aren't even fit to live. Now, I told you that Margaret Sanger, when she started Planned Parenthood, and folks, if you don't believe me, go check it out for yourself, was as racist as she could be to the core. I don't know if you know this or not, but if you'll go back and if you'll go check, the 50 million kids have been butchered in this country. 50 million. Is that right? Am I correct in that? 50 million abortions. Go find out what percentage of those babies are black. Go find out. Go find out. Go find out how many Planned Parenthood clinics are located in large cities and out in the urban, sprawling areas where there's a concentration of black people, and you'll be amazed at how many of these are black babies. They're controlling the population that way. Now we have microbiologists who can control the population through a pathogen that they can create in a lab that can target a person's race. You say, well, that's insane. Not really. Not really. Nobody knows to this day where AIDS came from. They don't know where AIDS came from. I heard it said 20 years ago it came from the green monkey. I'm sure many of you have heard that too, but nobody ever proved where it came from. There are many people out there who believe AIDS came from a laboratory. They believe that. I can't prove that one way or the other. But I do know that it has created chaos, and I do know that the New World Order will bring order out of chaos. I do know that, and I do know that they have a motive in everything that they do, and that they've already said time and again that the world's population must be reduced.
Open your mind.
They're going to reduce the population, and here's what they plan to have in this new world: the super rich and the herd. No middle class. Middle class will be gone. If you get on Drudge right now, he may still be posted on his main page. Get on Drudge, and you'll see where he says, black middle class eroding quickly. All right? Middle class, the middle class. Europe has the serfdom and it has the king. All right, that's been the system in Europe. America created a cultural system that's unlike anything else. They had super rich, always have, always will. They had the very poor, but they had the middle class. You see, they had the middle class, the buffer between the super rich who dictated over the very poor. The poor they kept them uneducated, they kept them ignorant, they kept them poor, so they could use them and work them. Did you believe that you're doing that today? That's exactly what all these bailouts were about. That's exactly what this New World Order intends to do. It's going to create a super rich class. At one time, Bill Gates was worth $90,000 million.
Open your mind.
That's a pile of money. Right now, he's falling on hard times. He's down about 45 billion, I think, somewhere in there. At one time, that's an unbelievable amount of money. And how did he make that? He didn't make that over generations. When he created Microsoft, and he created Microsoft because he went to work for IBM. IBM wanted somebody to make an operating system for them. IBM was a computer manufacturer, always has been. And you know, way back before them, when you went to a grocery store to buy food, that cash register more than likely was IBM or Royal or something like that. So they wanted an operating system for their computer, their personal computer, so Bill Gates wrote the code for it. He was a computer programmer. That's all he was. And then he created Microsoft. He created Windows. He created an operating system that sat on top of DOS. And now, of course, DOS is gone and it's all Windows. And he monopolized the system. Every PC that came out had Windows on it. And so Bill Gates got a royalty from it. And he monopolized it. You know, they talk about the antitrust laws up there in Washington. They didn't work for him because every PC that was made had Windows on it until Linux came out. And then Mac, of course, has got a different system altogether, but it's a different computer. He became an intensely rich man by doing that. That's what's happening now. You'd believe the rich have lost their money?
Open your mind.
Let me ask you this question. When this deep recession started in 2.5, 3 years ago, okay, do you believe any of that money disappeared that was around 3 years ago? Do you believe, in other words, do you believe that money's still around that was around 3 years ago? Okay, it's still around, right? It's just not in your hands. All right? Who did that? Who allowed the housing industry to build? Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, pumping money in, letting people buy houses that didn't even have a job, had no way they could pay a mortgage payment like that, and house after house after house after house after house. They knew that this bubble was building. It was a created prosperity. These houses weren't worth what they were piling all this money into them. The day would come when reality would set in. That's exactly what they wanted. It did. For what? To create a recession like we've been in. They're going to bring something out of that recession. These planners are going to do something with it. What's his face said to Bill Clinton, Evangelist, wasn't Evangelist Clinton, it was the one that's in there now. Obama, the one who became the mayor of Chicago, he said that you can't let a good crisis go to waste. Rahm Emanuel. All right? I'm talking about the elite. I'm talking about what they're going to use to bring about exactly what they intend to do. And so these scientists come up dead. Here's one at the end. It says, there have been persistent reports. The Institute is also engaged in DNA sequencing research. One former member of the Knesset, Didi Zucker, caused a storm in the Israeli parliament when he claimed that the Institute was trying to create an ethnic-specific weapon in which Arabs could be targeted by Israeli weapons. In World War I, they had biological warfare. You remember that? The gas, all that, the trenches. But now they've got to the point now with technology and that they've learned enough now to where they apparently can create a weapon that by sequencing DNA. Now it was about 10, 15 years ago, they charted the whole human genome. All right? Something like that. 10 years ago, I forget exactly how long it's been. They charted it, the whole human genome, the genetic structure of the human being. All right, they got it all laid out. Okay. This means they have a database built up that they can work from. And they know that if they can get to the point of where they can create a weapon that will wipe out certain races or certain people, then you talk about control over people, they've got control over you, like you wouldn't believe, to force into being what they intend to force into being. Now, when you look around yourself, and what I'm talking about, you know, I've talked about Bird and I've talked about this other stuff. You got to ask yourself the question,
open your mind.
Well, how long is it going to be then? I mean, they've got all this technology, they've got all this stuff going. How long is it going to be before they bring this together and they do it? They're already doing it. It's already happening. It's already happening. When you look outside, How many of you have noticed these little antennas that have a square box on top of them? That's ELF. That's an ELF antenna. You know what that's for? Ostensibly, it's for this. On the surface of it, that's what it's for. And it may be used, but that's not all it's for. It emits a microwave. Hitler, scientists, discovered. It's amazing the stuff that's come out of Germany, isn't it? Hitler's scientists discovered back in the 30s and the 40s that certain waves could control the behavior of people.
Open your mind.
They could. They could control the behavior of people. Now, the radio spectrum is huge, folks. I mean, to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, you tune into an AM station, and you're going from somewhere like 500 to 520 on up to, 1700. Then you tune into an AM station, you get shortwave, you got shortwave radio receivers, you got waves, radio waves that are locked into a certain frequency like aircraft and the military and what have you. There's a huge spectrum of radio waves. They could have chosen out of that huge spectrum of radio waves, they had a huge selection of frequencies to choose for your cell phone. They could, open, it's available. Because that frequency is not practical for a radio receiver like you listen to. So they could choose these frequencies. Guess what frequency they chose? It's a frequency that is right next to what's necessary to control a human being. Isn't that amazing? Now, you've already been warned time and again that these cell phones could cause damage. Overexposure to them, They have what is that thing where you can look at a body and you can see a hot spot in it? It's some kind of a camera that shows thermal, infrared, something like that. They showed a woman or a man that had been listening on a cell phone, just took the phone away, then they showed a photograph of the same person 10 minutes later. Red all over the side there, where this radiation had been emitted from this phones all over the head, and then 10, 15 minutes later, most of it was gone. Okay, now that's a fact. That's rock hard science, okay? It is a fact that radio waves can affect human beings. They're working now. They are investigating. They're doing their work in these laboratories of just exactly how many of these things they need out there to control mass control of human beings.
Open your mind.
In other words, they can begin to send frequencies into your head, and you wonder why. Why is it that I'm thirsty, or why would I like to have an ice cream, or what? All of a sudden this desire hits you. It's because they're feeding this stuff into your brain. Now you say, well, that's crazy, preacher.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
About others around you,
sobre ti y sobre aquellos a tu alrededor,
about the purity and the grandness of love,
acerca de la pureza y la grandiosidad del amor,
of life's purpose,
del propósito de la vida.
As my partner says, a time to relax and be.
Como dice mi socio, un momento para relajarse y ser.
To feel part of the creative energy.
De sentirse parte de la energía creativa.
To breathe a sigh of relief for a moment. Just to breathe a sigh of relief.
Para respirar y dejar relajar.
That such a space you have created for yourself.
En este espacio que has creado para ti.
You're heading south.
Te diriges hacia el sur.
Toward the pole.
Hacia el polo.
Now you're not going to the pole.
Ahora no vas al polo.
But some of you will be as close as you ever have been.
Pero algunos de ustedes estarán tan cerca o lo más cerca que habrán estado.
There are things happening in Antarctica.
Hay cosas que están pasando en Antártida.
That we have spoken of before.
De las cuales hemos hablado antes.
Something you should celebrate when you're close.
algo que debieran celebrar cuando estén cerca.
Dear ones, there is so much significance to where you're going.
Queridos míos, hay tanto significado en cuanto a dónde se dirigen.
It is not an accident that this is the trip you have decided to take.
No es un accidente que este sea el viaje que has elegido tomar.
Or the one that my partner has seen as something he wished to do.
O que mi socio haya visto este viaje como algo que deseaba hacer.
And some of you will see this before you're done.
Y algunos de ustedes verán esto antes de que termine.
So here's what we are asking.
Así que aquí está lo que les pedimos.
There is a shift happening on the planet.
Hay un cambio ocurriendo en el planeta.
It evolves slowly.
Evoluciona lentamente.
Old souls are the ones that are feeling it first.
Almas antiguas son las que lo sienten primero.
They are the ones who are here in the room.
Esas son las que están aquí en esta sala.
You know that magnetics plays a part in cellular structure awareness?
Sabes que lo magnético juega un rol en cuanto a la conciencia de la estructura celular.
And you're heading for what we have called a null zone.
El reino humano.
And you don't understand.
Y no entiendes.
That you are us.
Que tú eres nosotros.
Except that you are humans at the moment.
Excepto que tú eres humano en este momento.
There is a circle.
Hay un círculo.
A circle of lives on the planet Earth.
Un círculo de vidas en el planeta Tierra.
According to a divine system that you helped create.
De acuerdo a un sistema divino que tú ayudaste a crear.
There are those who would tell you this is a prison.
Hay aquellos que te dirán que esto es una prisión.
This is where you come to suffer because you haven't done something right.
Aquí es donde vienes a sufrir porque hay algo que no hiciste que no era correcto.
There are those who would humanize God.
Hay quienes van a humanizar a Dios.
They'll tell you there's wars in heaven and trouble.
Y que dirán que hay guerras en el cielo y problemas.
Fallen angels and evil.
Ángeles que se caen y demonios.
All to justify the things they are creating themselves.
Todo para justificar aquello que ellos están creando ellos mismos.
And the truth is that the magnificence of God is upon you.
Y la verdad es que la magnificencia de Dios está sobre ti.
It always has been.
Y siempre ha estado allí.
It always will be.
Y siempre estará allí.
And to the extent that you discover it,
y en cuanto logras entenderla, descubrirla,
is the lesson of mankind.
Es esa la lección de la humanidad.
The process you see here,
el proceso que ves aquí,
is always the process.
Siempre es el proceso.
And that is to say that human beings have always represented spirit.
Y eso es para decir que el ser humano siempre ha representado al espíritu.
All the scriptures written by humans.
Todas las escrituras han sido escritas por humanos.
All the messages from God related through humans.
Todos los mensajes de Dios entregados por humanos.
It's always been the way it is.
Siempre ha sido la manera en que es.
And today it is channeling.
Y hoy es canalización.
And there are still those who will not accept it.
Y todavía habrá aquellos que no lo aceptarán.
For they do not feel they are worthy or qualified to listen.
Pues no sentirán que son merecedores o calificados para escuchar.
Or that any human is qualified.
Y te estás dirigiendo a una zona que hemos llamado zona nula.
The closest some of you will ever get to having no polarity.
Lo más cerca que muchos de ustedes se acercarán a no tener polaridad.
Now this is not understood by some of you.
Ahora, esto no es comprendido por algunos de ustedes.
So let us simplify it.
Así que simplifiquémoslo.
You have decided to put yourself into a place that is unusually anomalous magnetically on the planet.
Ustedes han decidido ubicarse en un lugar que es de manera inusual, anormal en términos magnéticos.
Compasses don't work well down here.
Las brújulas no funcionan bien aquí.
And so for a little while it'll posture that which is your consciousness potential.
Así que por un momento va a mostrar lo que es tu potencial de conciencia.
For old souls especially.
Especialmente para las almas viejas.
To receive messages.
Para recibir mensajes.
There are certain mammals here.
Hay ciertos mamíferos aquí.
In the ocean.
En los océanos.
Who are entangled with your Akash.
Que están entangled o entrelazados con tu Akash.
They don't have to be close to you for you to feel them and know they are here.
No necesitan estar cerca de ti para que tú los sientas y sepas que ellos están allí.
And some of you will know
Y
when I
algunos de
speak.
ustedes sabrán de lo que hablo.
Oh, these are such wonderful opportunities.
Oh, estas son oportunidades tan maravillosas.
And it won't necessarily happen in a meeting like this.
Y no necesariamente sucederá en una reunión como esta.
I want you to relax.
Quiero que te relajes.
And the things that you would see on the excursions,
Y las cosas que verás en las excursiones,
see them as part of the creator energy that you are.
velas como parte de la energía creadora que tú eres.
Have an alliance with the mountains themselves.
Crea una alianza con las montañas mismas.
I may even tell you some interesting things about Antarctica when you're closer.
Puede que te digan cosas interesantes sobre Antártida cuando estemos más cerca.
When I come back in a moment,
Cuando regrese en un momento,
I'm going to talk about the universe
voy a hablar sobre el
and
universo.
what the shift qualified to receive.
O que ningún humano esté realmente calificado para recibir.
And this is an old energy paradigm which you are starting to conquer.
Y este es un paradigma de vieja energía que estás empezando a conquistar.
The message is given on a ship.
El mensaje es entregado en un barco.
Are always different
Los mensajes en barco son siempre distintos
than those given on the land.
que aquellos que se entregan en tierra.
For you're not connected, you're not grounded.
Pues no estás conectado, no estás aterrizado.
The water separates you
El agua te separa
from the dirt of the earth.
de la tierra del planeta.
It is different.
Es distinto.
So many epiphanies happen on the water.
Tantas epifanías ocurren sobre el agua.
Sometimes artists go to paint on a boat.
Algunas veces los artistas van a pintar en los barcos.
Poets to write.
Los poetas van a escribir,
For they feel it and they know it.
pues lo sienten y lo saben.
These days you have an opportunity, if you choose,
Estos días tienes una oportunidad, si así lo eliges,
to have profound communications.
para tener comunicaciones profundas.
It always happens
Siempre sucede
if you are open to it.
si estás abierto a ello.
Watch your dreams.
Observa tus
What
sueños.
do they say? What do they mean?
¿Qué te dicen? ¿Qué significan?
It's a great time to communicate with your own cellular structure.
Es un gran momento para comunicarte con tu propia estructura celular,
For you're just a little off center,
pues estás un poco salido del centro,
because that which is normally stable on your feet is moving.
pues aquello que está normalmente estable bajo tus pies se está moviendo.
It puts you in another kind of reality.
Te ubicas sobre otro tipo de realidad
And it's an opportunity.
y es una oportunidad.
And so in this we create an energy
Entonces, en esto creamos una energía
for you.
para ti.
That all through this time,
Y durante todo este tiempo,
at the least expected moments,
en los momentos menos esperados,
you might have introspection
puede que tengas introspección
about yourself Greetings, dear ones. I am Cryon of Magnetic Service.
Saludos mis queridos, soy Crión del servicio magnético.
And there would be those who would wonder if this is real.
Y habrá aquellos que se preguntarán si esto es real.
So I give you a moment.
Así que les doy un momento.
If you can touch your higher self right now in any way at all,
Si puedes tocar tu yo superior en este momento de cualquier manera,
if you can ask the innate in the body,
si puedes preguntarle a tu sabiduría interna innata en tu cuerpo,
they'll tell you it's real.
te dirán que es real.
Use that discernment that you have.
Ese discernimiento que tienes
It's a safe place to be.
es un lugar seguro para estar.
Indeed, a real communication from the other side of the veil is at hand.
De hecho, una comunicación real desde el otro lado del velo la tenemos aquí.
And it always starts the same.
Y siempre comienza de la misma manera.
With appreciation and love.
Con aprecio y amor.
And honor for that which is the human being.
Y honrar aquello que es el ser humano.
You tend to separate yourselves from us.
Tiendes a separarte de nosotros.
You tend to think of humans and then there are the rest on the other side of the veil.
Tiendes a pensar que están los humanos y todo el resto al otro lado del velo.
There is the angelic realm and then there's the human realm.
Está el reino angelical y está por otro lado